It started with rain, which, honestly, isn't unusual for the small town of Oakville, Washington. The locals were totally used to those gray skies and the steady drizzles that came and went. But on August 7th, 1994, something truly bizarre fell from the clouds that no one could wrap their heads around. Instead of good old water, a strange, translucent gel started drifting down over this sleepy rural community. It splattered on windshields, soaked into fields, and clung to rooftops like some cold jelly. At first, folks thought it might be hail or maybe even a weird chemical spill, but when they touched it, they realized it was neither ice nor liquid. It felt soft, sticky, and almost alive-looking. You could just feel that something was off. Within hours, people began to feel really sick, and that's when the panic started to set in. One of the first people to notice something was off was a woman named Sunny Barclift. She spotted the rain coating her porch in these slippery blobs about the size of rice grains, and they looked almost organic, which was super weird. Her mother, Dottie Hearn, was the first to collapse. It hit her like a freight train fever, dizziness, nausea all of a sudden. Sunny panicked and rushed her to the hospital, but by the time they got there, the nurses said her vitals were dangerously unstable. They had no clue what was going on. Then, the pets started dropping like flies. Cats and dogs that had been outside during that bizarre rain were found dead within days. Even the livestock grew weak, and healthy animals just refused to eat or drink anywhere near where that goo had touched the ground. It was heartbreaking. People began scraping samples of this strange substance into jars, bringing them to authorities in hopes of getting answers. But no one had a clue, not the local police, not the county health department. Everyone was left with the same burning question: what on earth fell from the sky that day? And to make it even more mind-boggling, it didn't just happen once. Over the next 3 weeks, the gelatinous rain fell 6 more times, each time in the same general area, each time leaving behind the same slimy residue. And every time, more people reported illness, nausea, fatigue, respiratory issues. Sunny, in a bit of a panic, decided to send a sample to a private lab. What the technician found next was jaw-dropping and made the whole story explode in the media. Under the microscope, those bizarre blobs appeared to contain cells, human white blood cells, to be exact, but here's the kicker: they had no nucleus. So, they weren't actually human or animal. Just something else entirely. Can you believe that? A microbiologist named David Lytle took a closer look and confirmed that the blobs were biological in nature, but he was stumped on what they actually were. Another scientist came forward claiming to have detected traces of 2 types of bacteria, one typically found in the human digestive tract and another linked to severe infections. But seriously, how could that possibly fall from the sky? It's mind-boggling. As you can imagine, rumors started flying. Some folks thought it might be jellyfish matter accidentally sucked up by military planes from the Pacific and dumped over land. Others whispered about top-secret weapons tests, suggesting Oakville had been used as a testing ground for some kind of biological agent. It's wild, right? What do you think was really going on? It wasn't just speculation. Either, locals remembered that the area wasn't too far from military air routes and that fighter jets had been seen overhead the morning the blobs first fell. Even stranger, radar reports confirmed an identified aircraft in the area that same day. People started to connect dots that maybe shouldn't have been connected, but also couldn't be ignored. Some residents started to think that maybe the government was up to something, you know? They speculated it could be a biological dispersal method like spraying or releasing some kind of material from planes to see how it spread. The blobs, they believed, were carriers packed with lab-grown cells and bacteria, all aimed at tracking infection rates or how many people were exposed. It made sense, right? Oakville was this tiny, isolated spot, just perfect for a secret test. When the press caught wind of the story, officials were super vague. No one confirmed anything, and no one denied it either. Some samples sent to state labs mysteriously went missing, while tests came back as inconclusive. It felt like the whole thing was wrapped in a thick fog, documented, witnessed by many, but still impossible to pin down. What a wild ride! The rain stopped after about a month. The illnesses faded too. Life in Oakville returned to its quiet rhythm, but the memories stayed. Years later, the case was featured on Unsolved Mysteries, reigniting public interest. Scientists revisited the evidence, but nothing definitive ever surfaced. Theories multiplied. Some blamed pollution, perhaps waste from an airplane's lavatory system. But that didn't make sense. Aviation waste is dyed blue, and this substance was clear. Others proposed that weather conditions could have caused natural biopolymers or algae to fall from the atmosphere, though no such phenomenon had ever been recorded before or since. Then came the most unsettling possibility that the blobs were a natural, biological organism, possibly a type of atmospheric life form. There's an old fringe theory suggesting microorganisms might live high in the stratosphere, feeding on airborne particles. Maybe, for some reason, the conditions that summer brought them down to Earth. No one can prove that, of course. But when the samples were analyzed under ultraviolet light, they reacted like living tissue. They glowed faintly, something inert materials don't do. To this day, Sunny Barclift is holding onto one of the last remaining vials of that bizarre Oakville substance. Can you believe it? She says it hasn't decomposed at all decades later. That's just mind-blowing, right? Scientists she's talked to are equally baffled, which only adds to the mystery. It's like this stuff is playing by its own rules, defying everything we know about biology. So here we are, talking about this rain that wasn't really rain, and honestly, it stands out as one of the strangest unexplained events in modern history. I mean, weird stuff falling from the sky isn't exactly new. Just think about frogs, fish, or even that bizarre blood-colored rain. But this was on a whole different level. It didn't just fall, it made people sick like something straight out of a horror flick. Imagine waking up to a gooey substance coating your porch. It felt almost alive, creeping into homes and causing all sorts of chaos. It's wild, right? The whole thing feels like a sci-fi movie, doesn't it? And even after all these years, we're still left scratching our heads, wondering what really went down that day. What do you think? And here's the creepiest twist. The whole incident never even made it into the official weather records. Can you believe that, as far as the government is concerned, on August 7th, 1994, it never rained in Oakville at all? How eerie is that? It's like the whole thing was swept under the rug, leaving us with more questions than answers. What else are they hiding? What do you think?